50 Cent just leaked exclusive phone calls he had with major celebrities. And things got crazy fast. Some of these rappers threatened him. Others were literally begging him, all after finding out they were featured in his upcoming documentary. What started as a simple announcement has now turned into total chaos, with careers on the line and tensions exploding across the industry. And now, 50 Cent is putting everything out there. In this video, we're going to reveal the leaked calls, the reactions, and even exclusive footage from the documentary, because this situation is honestly insane. To understand the leaked phone call, the diss tracks, the chaos, and the fallout, we need to understand how 50 Cent got to this point. Because the man who leaked that audio is not just a rapper. He's a television mogul, he's a professional troll, and by 2026 he has turned documentaries into weapons. Let's go back to December 2025. The Reckoning became available for streaming on Netflix in early December 2025. This was a 4-part docuseries that 50 Cent executive produced. The 4-part production highlights the rise and fall of a prominent music mogul, and also features exclusive never-before-seen footage, exploring the many serious allegations that have been leveled from the 90s to the present day. Now this is where we need context. 50 Cent is the executive producer of the series. It's not his first production credit for a show. The rapper helped produce hit shows like Power. So this is a man who already has a track record in television. He's not just some rapper trying his hand at producing. He's a full-on entertainment executive with years of credits under his belt. When asked why he chose to get involved in the documentary, 50 Cent gave a direct answer. "If I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as hip-hop is fine with his behaviors," the rapper said. He positioned himself as the one person willing to speak up when others stayed silent. According to 50 Cent, real name Curtis Jackson, he felt an obligation to speak up for those who couldn't speak for themselves, adding that he's one of the few prominent figures being vocal. He went on to say that if he didn't stand up for what he knows is right, an entire culture could be painted in a false light. That's how 50 framed it. And the documentary performed. It drew massive viewership. It dominated conversations on social media. It became one of the most talked about releases on Netflix. But not everyone was buying 50 Cent's stated motivations. Dame Dash called 50 Cent out publicly, saying he's tearing down another black man for profit. That's a direct accusation. Dash wasn't subtle about it. He saw the documentary as a financial play wrapped in moral language. And he wasn't the only one who felt that way. Then something happened that changed the dynamic completely. The most recent escalation unfolded in December 2025, centered on 50 Cent's Netflix documentary, which, interestingly enough, contains footage of Jim Jones with the disgraced mogul, just days before his arrest. As the media hyped up the documentary, Jim Jones dismissed it as a mockumentary on his podcast, with Mano, Dave East, and Fabulous. That word, mockumentary, set off a chain reaction, because 50 Cent heard it, and 50 Cent does not let things slide. He never has, he never will. Now let's talk about that podcast for a second. Jim Jones, Mano, Fabulous, and Dave East host a podcast called Let's Rap About It. It's a New York-based show where the 4 rappers discuss hip-hop news, culture, and everything in between. It had been growing in popularity throughout 2025. By the time the documentary dropped, their podcast was getting regular views and engagement. So when Jim Jones and his crew sat down on their podcast and dismissed the documentary, calling it a mockumentary, they weren't just random voices on the internet. They were established New York rappers with a platform, and 50 Cent took it personally. This led 50 Cent to go beast mode on Jim Jones. Even while Mino tried to chime in, 50 got the last laugh. He leaked alleged audio from Jones's landlord claiming unpaid rent for the podcast studio, accusing Jones and his co-hosts of financial troubles, and even offering to buy the podcast himself. Let that sink in. 50 Cent's response to being called a mockumentary maker was to leak audio of Jim Jones's landlord saying he owed money. That's not a diss track. That's not a social media post calling someone names. That's a man sharing what he claims is a real phone call between himself and the owner of the building where his rival records his podcast. He shared a recording of an unverified phone call in which an individual, believed to be the studio's owner, says Jones owes him at least $80,000 if not $180,000. $80,000 to $180,000 in unpaid rent. That's the claim made in the audio. Now it's important to note, Fifth included an audio recording, which some have speculated stems from a phone call. This, however, has not been verified. The audio has not been independently verified. We don't know for certain who is speaking on it. We don't know the full context, but 50 Cent posted it, and the internet ran with it. 50 Cent captioned the post with his trademark confidence. "I don't know why these people start with me," he wrote in an Instagram update. "If I wasn't me, I would leave me alone." That right there tells you everything about how 50 Cent operates. He views every confrontation as an opportunity. He views every piece of information as ammunition, and he has no hesitation about deploying that ammunition publicly on Instagram for millions of people to see. The leaked phone call became the talk of hip-hop in December 2025. Fans were debating whether 50 had actually called the landlord, or if it was fabricated. They were debating whether Jim Jones was really behind on his rent. They were debating the ethics of leaking private conversations for the purpose of public humiliation. But 50 Cent wasn't done, not even close. 50 Cent continued to troll Jones last month when he posted a video of Jones's podcast studio losing power while people were inside, forcing them to walk around with flashlights. So now we go from a leaked phone call about rent to a video of the studio with no electricity. 50 Cent is building a narrative. He's saying, "These guys who called my documentary a mockumentary can't even keep the lights on in their own studio." Cameron has also gotten in on the fun. In early January, he and Jones went back and forth after the former joked about the latter's alleged financial woes. "How you worried about me when you heat off and rent due?" Cam quipped, prompting Jones to accuse Cam of being soft and freaky. So now Cameron, Jim Jones's own Dipset groupmate, is making jokes about the rent situation. The leak didn't just embarrass Jim Jones in front of 50 Cent's audience. It gave ammunition to everyone who had any kind of issue with Jones. But Jim Jones tried to play it cool. Jim Jones thanked 50 Cent and Cameron for free promo. That's the public response. That's Jones trying to flip it, trying to say the attention is helping his brand. And maybe it was, but the narrative had already been set. In the court of public opinion, the leaked phone call had done its damage. Jones apparently didn't respond to Fifth, but the unpaid rent was eventually paid after his stunt. So the rent got paid. Whether that means the claims were true or whether Jones just decided to settle any outstanding balances to kill the narrative, we can't say for certain, but the timing is notable. Then during an appearance on Way Up with Angela Yee, Mino finally addressed the whole thing about the rent owed at their podcast studio and said that 50 Cent was capping. This comes after 50 Cent shared audio of the supposed landlord, claiming that he's owed plenty of money for rent. So Mino's position was that 50 Cent was lying, that the whole thing was exaggerated or fabricated for content. And that's a fair position to take. But by the time Mino made that statement, the story had already gone viral. The leaked phone call had already been played and replayed thousands of times across the internet. This is 50 Cent's playbook. He doesn't need the claim to be proven in court. He needs it to trend on Instagram. He needs it to be discussed on podcasts. He needs it to be the subject of YouTube videos. And by the time someone comes out and says, "That's not true," the damage is done. The meme has been shared. The screenshots have been taken. The conversation has moved on. Now let's zoom out for a second. Let's look at what 50 Cent accomplished with this single leaked phone call. First, he embarrassed Jim Jones publicly over alleged financial issues. Second, he undermined the credibility of the Let's Rap About It podcast, which had criticized his documentary. Third, he demonstrated to everyone in hip-hop what happens when you come for him. He doesn't just clap back with words. He pulls receipts. He pulls phone recordings. He pulls landlords into the conversation. And that's just the beginning, because the leaked audio about the rent was just the opening salvo. 50 Cent had much bigger moves planned. Fifth previously put forth the claim that Jones and other Let's Rap About It hosts, including Mano, Fabulous, and Dave East, were squatting in the space. This was followed by an offer, presumably a joking one, but you never know with Fifth, to buy the space plus a 50% stake in the podcast itself. 50 Cent offered to buy a 50% stake in a podcast run by his rivals, using his own name as the punchline, 50%. You can't make this up. The man turned a real estate dispute into comedy, and the internet ate it up. In a February 2026 Instagram post, he shared a surveillance video of rival Jim Jones aggressively kicking down a door in a hallway. Apparently, it's where the Dipset rapper records his podcast, with co-hosts and fellow rappers Mino, Fabulous, and Dave East. Surveillance video. 50 Cent now has surveillance video from inside the building. This isn't just trolling anymore. This is intelligence gathering. This is a man who has access to the building's security cameras and is using that access to post footage of his rival kicking down doors. Everything drastically changed when he also shared a picture of the alleged landlord of the building. What better way to get at Jim Jones than to own the building? He records his podcast at every week. "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you're gonna fix every door you kick or I'm gonna kick your awa Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property." 50 captioned the post. 50 Cent claims he is now partners with the landlord. He claims to own a stake in the building where Jim Jones records his podcast. Whether this is true or just another layer of trolling, the message is clear. I can reach you anywhere. I can touch your business. I can affect your livelihood. And I'll do it all with a smile on my face and a joke in the caption. 50 Cent also leaked an eviction notice. That shows Jones is in default of his lease agreement signed on December 17, 2025. He was served with a 15-day notice of default, which expired on February 17th. The notice shows the landlord took possession of the apartment and changed the locks on the doors. Jones was forbidden from entering the apartment. To retrieve his belongings without the landlord's permission, the landlord, Raber Enterprises LLC, agreed to coordinate with Jones to collect his belongings and furniture. An eviction notice posted on Instagram for the world to see. This is next level pettiness. This is 50 Cent using actual legal documents as content. The eviction notice, the phone call recording, the surveillance video, the no electricity footage, it's all part of a coordinated campaign to humiliate Jim Jones and the entire Let's Rap About It crew. And what was the response from the other side? Fabulous, Jim Jones, Mano, and Dave East recently released a freestyle titled Squatters' Rights that directly targets 50 Cent for his online trolling. The track serves as a response to 50 Cent leaking a phone call, where he discussed buying the building that houses their podcast and exposed their alleged overdue rent. The crew decided to move the conflict from social media to music by challenging the G-Unit mogul to stop posting leaks and actually rap. They responded with music, Squatters' Rights. The title alone tells you they're owning the narrative 50 Cent created. They're leaning into the joke. They're saying, yes, you called us squatters. Now here's a song called Squatters' Rights. What are you going to do about it? And 50 Cent's response? 50 Cent responded on Saturday by posting a photo of himself as the Great Gatsby, with a caption warning that everyone who plays with him eventually regrets it. A photo of himself as the Great Gatsby. No music, no diss track, just a movie reference and a vague threat. That's the 50 Cent strategy. He refuses to meet his opponents on their terms. They want him to rap. He posts memes. They want him to respond with music. He posts legal documents. They want a fair fight. He buys the building. This sets the stage for everything that follows. Because 50 Cent didn't just beef with Jim Jones and the podcast crew. He had another front opening up, and that front was about to make the leaked phone call look like a warm-up. While 50 Cent was dismantling Jim Jones on Instagram, another situation was brewing, and this one would become the defining hip-hop beef of early 2026. The spark that lit this wildfire was a Versus battle that never happened. T.I. revealed on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, hosted by Jilly the Kid and Wallow, that he and 50 Cent had been in talks to face each other in a Versus battle, a side-by-side catalog showdown. According to T.I., the two were aligned and excited about celebrating their catalogs together. Let's break this down. T.I. went on a popular podcast and told the world that he and 50 Cent had agreed to a Versus. For those who don't know, Versus is a format where two artists go song for song, playing their biggest hits in a head-to-head format. It started during the COVID-19 pandemic and has produced some legendary matchups. T.I. said they had a deal. He said both sides were excited. He said they were going to celebrate their respective catalogs. Get Rich or Die Tryin' versus Trap Music. In Da Club versus What You Know, G-Unit versus Grand Hustle. T.I. initially suggested on $1 Million Worth of Game that the two had agreed on a Versus battle, with the idea being that Tip would reveal the news. He claimed on the pod, hosted by Jilly the Kid and Wallow, that 50 went back on the plan, playing dumb when the What You Know rapper shared the news. 50 Cent played dumb. That's T.I.'s version of events. T.I. says they agreed. T.I. says it was supposed to be him who announced it. And when T.I. made the announcement, 50 Cent acted like he had no idea what T.I. was talking about. Now imagine that. You're T.I. You go on a major podcast. You announce this Versus to the world. And the other person acts confused. Acts like there was never an agreement. That's embarrassing. That makes you look like you fabricated the whole thing. The Atlanta rapper has accused the 50-year-old of previously agreeing to a Versus battle where they would have gone song for song, and then publicly clowning him once he announced it, pretending to act confused. And T.I. was not happy about it. This wasn't a situation where T.I. shrugged it off and moved on. This was the beginning of a war. The backdrop here matters. T.I. and 50 Cent have history. This was back in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Versus events had just begun popping off, and Harris used the opportunity of wishing Fifth a happy birthday to challenge him to a battle. In an Instagram video, he said, "Pull your ass up with 20 of your records, man. Sit across from me, man, and get this work, man." There was a bit of animosity in the message, though, as Tip added. But I understand if you don't want to answer to that challenge, because last time you got challenged, Kanye West dusted your ass off. So T.I. had already challenged 50 Cent years ago, and in that earlier challenge, he brought up the infamous 2007 chart battle between 50 Cent's Curtis album and Kanye West's Graduation. Graduation outsold Curtis. It was a turning point in 50 Cent's career, and T.I. used it as a taunt. The In Da Club rapper didn't take the bait. instead taking to X, formerly Twitter, to laugh about the challenge. "Yo, somebody passed T.I. the weed they gave Smokey in Friday. LOL," he wrote. 50 Cent laughed it off. He didn't take the challenge. He treated it like a joke. And that pattern, T.I. pushing for a confrontation, 50 Cent dismissing him, was about to repeat itself in 2026, but with much higher stakes. Their back and forth has been bubbling for years, but it recently boiled over again when T.I. challenged 50 Cent to a Versus battle. Instead of accepting the challenge, he fired back by calling Tip King Rat and telling him to keep my name out your mouth. That response set off another wave of music from the Atlanta rapper, who answered with several diss records aimed at 50. King Rat, that's what 50 Cent called T.I. In hip-hop, calling someone a rat is one of the worst accusations you can make. It implies that the person is an informant, that they cooperate with law enforcement, that they can't be trusted. T.I. has a well-documented history with the federal government. He served prison time for federal weapons charges and was later caught up in another federal case. 50 Cent knows this, and he used the word rat deliberately. That was the match that lit the fire. As of March 2026, T.I. has released 4 diss tracks targeting 50 Cent: War, The Right One, Lessons, and What Bully. 4 diss tracks, not 1, not 2, 4. T.I. went on a tear. He was releasing records at a pace that showed he was genuinely upset. This wasn't a strategic play for publicity. This was a man who felt disrespected and was using his craft to fight back. The first track was War. After indirectly dissing 50 Cent in his track War, T.I. returned with more direct insults. In his single, The Right One, War was the opening shot. It was somewhat indirect. T.I. was testing the waters, seeing how 50 would respond. Then came The Right One. One of the most talked about songs is The Right One. On the track, T.I. takes harsh personal shots at his rival, even bringing up 50's late mother and his baby mama Daphne Joy. This is where it got personal. T.I. went after 50 Cent's mother. He went after 50 Cent's baby mama. He brought up the most intimate, painful details of 50 Cent's life and put them in a song. In hip-hop, going after someone's mother, especially a deceased parent, is crossing a line that many artists won't cross. 50 Cent's mother, Sabrina Jackson, passed away in a fire when he was just 8 years old. It's one of the defining traumas of his life, and T.I. referenced it in The Right One. T.I. kept the pressure on with his third entry, Lessons, which online commentators and rap critics described as one of his strongest performances in years. Tip sounding genuinely hungry and reinvigorated. His fourth diss track, What Bully, targeted 50 Cent's online tough guy image versus his apparent reluctance to face real-world consequences. Lessons was T.I. at his lyrical peak. Critics said it was some of his best work in years. And What Bully went after 50 Cent's entire persona. The idea that 50 talks tough on the internet but won't show up in person. By this point, DJ Academics had drawn direct comparisons to the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef, cementing this as one of the defining rivalries of 2026. That's a significant comparison. The Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef of 2024 was one of the biggest events in hip-hop history. Comparing the 50 Cent and T.I. situation to that shows you how big this had gotten. But here's the thing. So far, 50 Cent has not responded with music. His approach has been entirely social media based, posting memes, jokes, and targeted images aimed at T.I. and his family. 50 Cent did not pick up a microphone. He did not write bars. He did not record a single diss track. T.I. dropped 4 songs. 50 Cent posted memes. Goes to old rappers still trying to battle rap. ChatGPT told me that. I don't need me to rap, you need me to rap. That was 50 Cent's response. He posted a fake stupid-ass award certificate and said that ChatGPT told him T.I. is an old rapper still trying to battle. He said he doesn't need to rap. He said T.I. needs him to rap. The implication, 50 Cent's attention is more valuable than his bars. And by not responding with music, he's actually denying T.I. the thing T.I. wants most. Relevance through confrontation with a bigger name. This is a strategy 50 Cent has used before. He did it with Ja Rule. He did it with Rick Ross. He does it with everyone. He controls the terms of engagement. If they want a rap battle, he gives them a meme. If they want a social media war, he gives them a documentary. If they want a fair fight, he buys their building. The New Yorker even went on to post unflattering images of the 49-year-old's wife, Tiny. 50 Cent posted unflattering images of Tiny Harris. That's T.I.'s wife. That's the mother of his children. And 50 Cent put her image on his Instagram for millions of followers to see and laugh at. In hip-hop, going after someone's spouse is a declaration of total war. There are no rules after that. And T.I.'s household responded accordingly. When 50 Cent posted unflattering images of Tiny Harris, the Harris household hit back hard. King Harris, T.I. and Tiny's son, responded, by wearing a t-shirt bearing the image of 50 Cent's late mother, Sabrina Jackson, who passed away in an apartment fire when 50 was just 8 years old. King Harris wore a t-shirt with 50 Cent's dead mother's face on it. That's T.I.'s son, and he put Sabrina Jackson's image on a shirt and wore it in a video. That is one of the most disrespectful things that has ever happened in a hip-hop beef. Full stop. In the interview, T.I. even noted the moment he said enough was when his son King got on social media in a t-shirt with a picture of 50 Cent's mother on it. Additionally, with 50 Cent seemingly being quiet over the last few days, with not even a trolling meme in sight, there was no reason to think the animosity would continue. So even T.I. recognized that his son had gone too far. He acknowledged that the t-shirt moment was the point where he personally said enough. That tells you something. When the father, who is in the middle of a beef, says his own son crossed a line, you know that line was crossed. But 50 Cent didn't respond to the t-shirt, at least not directly. Instead, he went quiet. And when 50 Cent goes quiet, as we've learned, that usually means something is coming. His sons King Harris and Damani Harris have also released their own responses, making this a full family affair. It wasn't just King. Damani Harris, another one of T.I.'s sons, also got involved. King has added another 2, and Damani also went in on Fifth on a song titled Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson, named after 50 Cent's mother's first name. That's the title Damani chose for his diss track. The Harris family was going all in. This was no longer just T.I. versus 50 Cent. This was the entire Harris household versus Curtis Jackson. And then Rick Ross showed up. Rick Ross injects himself into the 50 Cent and T.I. beef with a surprising request for a shirt of Fifth's deceased mother. On Thursday night, February 26, Tip's son King continued the diss track barrage against 50 Cent with a new song titled Sayless, where he continues to go at Fifth and diss his deceased mom. As an added dig, King donned a shirt with a throwback photo of 50's mom on it. Rose, who has his own issues with the G-Unit boss, commented on the post on Instagram. "Need that T and 3X Lil Bro," he wrote. King responded to the request, "I got you." Rick Ross asked for the t-shirt with 50 Cent's deceased mother on it, in a 3X, and King Harris said he'd hook him up. That's Rick Ross, a man who has been beefing with 50 Cent for over a decade, jumping into a completely separate beef just to pile on. And the way he did it, asking for a shirt with a dead woman's face on it, shows you how deep the animosity runs between Ross and 50 Cent. Rick Ross, who's had his issues with 50, hopped in the comments and wrote, "Need that T and a 3X Lil Bro." The Ross and 50 Cent rivalry goes back to the late 2000s. The origin of the rappers' beef is pretty murky, but according to reports, the two had an unpleasant interaction at a BET event in the late 2000s that was never resolved. In 2009, Ross took aim at 50 Cent on the track, Mafia Music. 50 Cent responded with a song called Officer Ricky, Go Ahead, Try Me, which poked fun at Ross's former career as a correctional officer. That diss, revealing that Rick Ross had worked as a correctional officer despite rapping about being a drug lord, was one of the most devastating moments in hip-hop beef history, and the two have never recovered from it. So when Ross saw an opportunity to take a shot at 50 Cent through the T.I. beef, he took it without hesitation. Now let's look at the timeline of the T.I. beef and how the documentary threat fits in. As of March 2nd, 2026, the beef shows no signs of dying down. In a surprising move, 50 Cent deleted all the negative posts he had directed at T.I. and his family, but the Harris camp was not impressed. 50 Cent deleted everything. Every post about T.I., every image of Tiny, every meme, gone. In hip-hop, deleting posts is often seen as backing down. It's seen as admitting you went too far. And T.I. saw it the same way. T.I. posted directly on social media, "It gaff what you erase. You keep posting, else it's problems." T.I. was not letting him off the hook. The deletion didn't satisfy him. If anything, it made him push harder. Because if 50 Cent was deleting, that meant the pressure was working. That meant something had gotten to him. But 50 Cent wasn't backing down. He was recalibrating. He was loading the next weapon. And that weapon was a documentary. Part 3, Surviving T.I. and Tiny, the documentary threat that broke the internet. The culture witnessed a masterclass in psychological warfare on March 5th, 2026, when 50 Cent briefly shared an Instagram post that sent immediate shockwaves across the internet. For a fleeting moment before it was deleted, the post revealed a sneak peek of a purported documentary titled Surviving T.I. and Tiny. In the caption, 50 Cent warned the Atlanta rap legend that he was about to be questioned regarding 20 sexual assault cases, chillingly advising him to get a crisis PR person on the line immediately. Read that again. Surviving T.I. and Tiny. 50 Cent posted a documentary title card. He tagged it with a warning about 20 sexual assault cases. And then he deleted it. This is the playbook. Post. Let it spread. Delete. Let the screenshots live forever. The deletion doesn't erase anything. it amplifies it, because now people are sharing the screenshot saying 50 Cent just deleted this. And the deletion itself becomes a story. On Thursday, March 5th, 50 Cent added fuel to the rumors with a now deleted Instagram post. The post included a screenshot of a headline that read, 50 Cent, reportedly developing Surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary, which many fans took as confirmation that something is in the works. He wasn't just teasing. He was sharing headlines about himself developing the documentary. It's a feedback loop. The media reports on the rumor. 50 Cent shares the media report, which generates more media reports, which 50 Cent shares again. Each cycle amplifies the story. And then came the line that made the internet explode. Fifth did not stop there. He also took a jab at T.I. in the caption, writing, "Remember how quiet I got before the Diddy doc? Dame thought I wasn't coming. Remember how quiet I got before the Diddy doc?" That's a direct threat. He's saying, the last time I went quiet, I was working on a documentary that shook the industry. Now I'm going quiet again. Figure out what that means. That line sent a clear message to T.I., to the Harris family, and to everyone watching. 50 Cent was drawing a direct line between the Netflix documentary he produced and a potential new project targeting T.I. and Tiny Harris. But is the documentary real? As of March 2026, there is no verified production schedule, network deal, or actual footage to confirm that Surviving T.I. and Tiny even exists. There's no confirmed production schedule, no network deal, no footage, no director attached, no production company announced. Nothing concrete has been presented to suggest this documentary is actually in production. This has not been officially confirmed. The rumor was put forward by Tasha K, who alleged that 50 Cent is developing a documentary focusing on alleged drugging and assault accusations connected to T.I. and Tiny. Given 50's track record with the Power franchise and other TV projects, fans find the idea credible, but it remains unconfirmed as of March 2nd in 2026. So the original rumor came from Tasha K, a gossip commentator, not from 50 Cent's production company, not from a network, not from any official source. Tasha K alleged it and then 50 Cent ran with it, or at least appeared to run with it. 50 Cent understands that in the modern era of instant viral media, the sheer threat of an exposing documentary often hits significantly harder than the actual project itself. This is the key insight. The threat is the weapon. 50 Cent doesn't need to actually make the documentary. He just needs people to believe he might, because the possibility alone is enough to dominate the conversation, put T.I. on the defensive, and keep the internet talking. Think about it from T.I.'s perspective. You're in the middle of a public beef. You've dropped 4 diss tracks. Your sons have dropped songs. Your family is all in. And then the guy you're beefing with, who just produced a massive documentary on Netflix, teases that he's making one about you, about your wife, about allegations that have followed you for years. That changes the equation completely. Diss tracks are temporary. A documentary lives on streaming platforms forever. A diss track reaches hip-hop fans. A documentary reaches everyone. A diss track can be answered with another diss track. A documentary? How do you respond to that? Now, the allegations 50 Cent is referencing have a real history. In January 2021, an Atlanta entrepreneur named Sabrina Peterson publicly accused T.I. of holding a gun to her head. This single accusation acted as a catalyst, opening a floodgate. Dozens of women began coming forward with stories, alleging a system where T.I. and Tiny would invite women to VIP sections or hotel suites, provide them with drinks, and assault them while they were incapacitated. These are serious allegations. They were widely reported at the time, and they created a massive controversy around T.I. and Tiny that dominated headlines for months in 2021. However, and this is critical context, despite the volume and consistency of these accusations, the legal outcomes heavily favored the Harris family. Criminal investigations were opened in Los Angeles and Las Vegas, but no criminal charges were ever formally filed, largely because the statute of limitations had already expired. No criminal charges. The statute of limitations had expired. The investigations were opened but closed without charges. That's the legal reality. A major civil lawsuit filed by a 2005 Air Force veteran was ultimately dismissed by a federal judge in August 2024, citing that the claims were time-barred and lacked sufficient evidence of a legal cover-up. The civil suit was dismissed too, time-barred and insufficient evidence. So legally speaking, T.I. and Tiny have not been found guilty of anything related to these allegations. The only major legal battle still actively lingering is a high-stakes defamation trial between T.I. and Sabrina Peterson, which is currently scheduled for June 2026. There is a defamation trial coming, but that's T.I. suing Sabrina Peterson, the woman who originally made the accusations. So T.I. is on the offensive in that case, not the defensive. This massive gap between the legal reality and the court of public opinion is exactly where 50 Cent is operating. The courts may have technically closed the door on criminal prosecution, but the cultural conversation regarding these allegations remains incredibly fractured and unresolved. And that's 50 Cent's entire strategy. He's not operating in the legal system. He's operating in the court of public opinion. He doesn't need a conviction to make a documentary compelling. He needs stories. He needs allegations. He needs interviews with people who are willing to talk on camera. And if the Netflix documentary is any indication, 50 Cent knows how to find those people. When Sherri Shepherd asked 50 Cent on her talk show whether he would make documentaries about other people he has beef with, his answer was interesting. With a smile, the Many Men rapper responded that he does not think that would be a good business plan. I don't think that's a good business plan to go after each person specifically. This one, I knew what it was going to turn into, he said. He said it's not a good business plan. He said he knew what the first documentary was going to turn into. So on one hand, he's saying he probably won't do it. On the other hand, he's leaving the door open. He's keeping everyone guessing. That ambiguity is part of the strategy. If he says, I'm not making the documentary, the threat disappears. If he says, I'm definitely making it, then he's committed to actually delivering. By saying neither, he maintains the threat indefinitely. And the hip-hop world is watching. Everyone is asking the same question. Is 50 Cent really going to make Surviving T.I. and Tiny? And every time someone asks that question, 50 Cent wins. Because the conversation is about him. The attention is on him. The narrative is controlled by him. Now, 50 Cent also had other moves happening simultaneously. The rapper-producer confirmed the news on Tuesday evening, simply writing in an Instagram post, "Gang Wars coming soon, A&E, I got some heat." Jackson also shared a screenshot of an article by Parade, which cites a report by Deadline that Jackson's G-Unit Film and Television and Jonah Beckor and Jonas Belpash's Citizen Jones are working together on the upcoming project. Deadline describes the series as an unfiltered look into America's most infamous gang rivalries, with unprecedented access and never-before-heard accounts. Gang Wars on A&E, another documentary project. More production credits, more content. 50 Cent is building a documentary empire. And every new announcement makes the threat of a T.I. documentary more credible. Because if 50 Cent is producing documentaries for Netflix, A&E, and other networks, then it's entirely plausible that he could turn his attention to T.I. at any moment. 50 also made a separate bombshell announcement related to his Power TV franchise around the same time, keeping himself at the center of the cultural conversation. Power franchise announcements, Gang Wars announcements, documentary rumors. It's all happening at the same time. 50 Cent is flooding the zone. He's making sure that no matter where you look in entertainment news, his name is there. Let's consider the broader context. In December 2025, 50 Cent produced the Netflix documentary. In January 2026, he announced Gang Wars for A&E. In February 2026, the T.I. beef exploded over the Verzuz situation. In March 2026, he teased Surviving T.I. and Tiny. That's 4 months of non-stop headlines. 4 months of being at the center of every hip-hop conversation. 4 months of controlling narratives, leaking audio, posting documents, and threatening documentaries. And this is from a man who, as many of his critics point out, hasn't released a studio album in years. He doesn't need albums. He's moved beyond music. He's using media, television, social media, leaked audio, documentary production, as his primary weapons. And those weapons are hitting harder than any diss track ever could. T.I. can drop 4 songs. His sons can drop songs. Rick Ross can ask for a t-shirt. But none of that matches the power of a Netflix documentary. None of that matches the reach of a 4-part docuseries that streams in 190 countries. And 50 Cent knows it. That's what makes the Surviving T.I. and Tiny threat so effective. It's not just about T.I., it's about establishing a precedent. It's about telling every rapper in the industry, if you come for me, I won't just post about you. I won't just leak your landlord's phone call. I will make a documentary about the darkest allegations in your life and put it on the biggest streaming platform in the world. That is a different kind of power. That is not rapper power. That is producer power, media mogul power. And in 2026, 50 Cent has both. While the T.I. beef and the Jim Jones situation were dominating headlines, 50 Cent was simultaneously engaged on yet another front, because apparently, 2 beefs at once weren't enough. He needed at least 3. 50 Cent and Papoose beef has become one of the most bizarre and talked about rivalries in modern hip-hop. What started as subtle industry tension and casual Instagram jabs has grown into a sprawling, multi-layered feud that dominates social media in 2026. Papoose, the Brooklyn rapper who has been in the game for decades, the man who was once married to Remy Ma. And in 2026, he became another target in 50 Cent's expanding web of conflicts. By 2022, the 50 Cent and Papoose beef shifted primarily online, What began as minor Instagram and Twitter jabs gradually formed a persistent pattern, keeping their names linked in fan discussions and hip-hop commentary. These exchanges set the stage for the major escalation of 2025-2026 as the feud expanded beyond personal feelings into a full-blown viral spectacle. The beef had been simmering for years. Minor jabs, small comments, nothing that would make national news. But in 2025 and 2026, things escalated. In 2025, Papoose and Remy Ma's marriage ended in divorce after years of ups and downs, public appearances, and renewed vows. Soon after, Papoose entered a high-profile relationship with Claressa Shields, a two-time Olympic gold medalist and dominant figure in women's boxing. This new relationship added visibility and vulnerability, giving the feud fresh momentum. 50 Cent, always alert to drama, made casual references to the couple, reigniting old resentments and fueling the beef. 50 Cent saw an opening and he took it. Papoose's divorce from Remy Ma, his new relationship with boxer Claressa Shields, these were all things 50 could use as material, and he did. 3 days later, on March 11, 2026, Papoose escalated further by releasing his fully produced diss track, Agent Provocateur, with visuals shared on Instagram. In the song, Papoose attacked 50 Cent's street credibility, challenged the embellished gunshot survival story, mocked his Queen's authenticity, and reaffirmed Brooklyn loyalty. Agent Provocateur, that's a loaded title. Papoose went after 50 Cent's street credibility, the very foundation of 50 Cent's image, the guy who was shot 9 times and survived. Papoose questioned whether that story was as heroic as 50 Cent has portrayed it. True to form, 50 Cent did not drop a diss track in response. Instead, he doubled down on trolling. On March 13th, he posted an untitled new song while simultaneously mocking T.I., Papoose, Fabolous, and the Let's Rap About It crew in a carousel post. A carousel post, mocking multiple opponents at once. T.I., Papoose, Fabolous, Jim Jones, Mino, Dave East. 50 Cent was taking on all of them simultaneously, and he was doing it through Instagram posts, not through music. This is where the pattern becomes undeniable. 50 Cent refuses to respond with music. He has been challenged by T.I. for diss tracks, by Papoose, a produced track, by the Let's Rap About It crew, a freestyle called Squatters' Rights, by Mano, a diss track called Bleed Like Us, and by various others, and he has not responded with a single bar of rapped lyrics. Mano recently questioned 50 Cent's street cred after dissing him on Bleed Like Us. Mano dropped Bleed Like Us on March 11, 2026. That's a direct diss track aimed at 50 Cent, and it came from a man who gives 50 Cent credit for helping him land a record deal with Atlantic Records. So the man who helped him get his record deal is now his target. That's how heated things have gotten. Old favors don't matter. Old alliances don't hold. When 50 Cent came for the Let's Rap About It podcast, he came for everyone associated with it. And Mino, who once benefited from 50's connections, is now on the other side of the battle lines. In response, Mano fired back with some restraint, acknowledging 50's help in his career, even if he was getting roasted. "Meet Killer Curly, ladies and gentlemen," his caption began. "He helped me get my record deal before, so Emma always be grateful. So it's gone hurt me to drag this Nietzsche to hell. Fuck is the problem, Curtis? What has your G-Unit, G-string, and a bunch non causil? Is it the beach or the diabetes? But let's rap about it." Mino acknowledged the help, but said it was going to hurt him to go at 50. That's a unique position. Most people in a beef deny any debt to the other person. Mino openly said, "Yeah, he helped me, and I'm grateful, but I'm still going to come for him." The fact that Mino tagged the podcast in his response shows how intertwined the personal beef and the business interests are. Every exchange promotes the podcast. Every response gets clicks. Every shot fired is also a marketing campaign. Even though Mino acknowledged the promotional benefits of beefing with 50, things continue to bubble for the rest of 2025, with the podcast host releasing a song containing some shots toward the Get Rich or Die Trying legend. Mino is self-aware about this. He knows that beefing with 50 Cent is good for business. He said as much publicly. The Let's Rap About It podcast gets more attention every time 50 Cent mentions it. The diss tracks get more streams because of 50 Cent's involvement. The whole thing is a content machine that benefits both sides in terms of visibility, but the cost is real too. Leaked phone calls, eviction notices, surveillance videos, electricity being cut. These are real-world consequences. And 50 Cent has shown a willingness to go beyond the internet and into actual business dealings to make his opponents' lives harder. Now let's talk about what 50 Cent did with AI. 50 Cent used AI to create a video featuring Max B, who is incarcerated, dissing Jim Jones, Fabolous, Mano, and Dave East. Max B is a rapper who has connections to the Harlem scene and has had his own issues with Jim Jones over the years. By using AI to put Max B in a video, 50 Cent is employing technology in a way that has never been done in a rap beef before. The rivalry captures attention because it merges traditional hip-hop beef with modern technology. AI deepfakes, Instagram trolling, and diss tracks combine to create a saga that is both entertaining and intensely personal. AI deepfakes in a rap beef. This is 2026. This is what hip-hop has become. The tools of the conflict are no longer just microphones and studios. They're algorithms and artificial intelligence. And 50 Cent, ever the innovator in chaos, is at the forefront of using these tools. Now, one thing that's important to understand about this multi-front war is how 50 Cent got Jim Jones involved in the first place. Because the Jim Jones beef didn't start with the podcast criticism. It has deeper roots. 50 Cent ended the year with no shortage of beef to carry over into 2026. And the same can be said about Jim Jones. The two have had an incredibly interesting relationship that stems back to New York's reign in the 2000s, when 50 and Dipset were at the height of their careers. However, whatever camaraderie they once shared is surely out the window, and that's been evident over the last decade at least. 50, whose online trolling efforts have ruffled more than a few feathers, hasn't given Jim Jones a break. G-Unit versus Dipset. That's the original beef. In the 2000s, when New York dominated hip-hop, 50 Cent and the G-Unit crew were beefing with Cam'ron and the Diplomats, which includes Jim Jones. That was 20 years ago, and the animosity has never fully gone away. In the second slide of the post, he included a leaked transcript of the infamous wiretapped phone call between Mel Murda and Individual One, who was later confirmed to be Jones. "He gotta get violated," Jones said in the wiretapped phone call, referring to potential violence. While it was never confirmed whether Jones was, in fact, an informant for authorities, 50 Cent previously referred to the Dipset rapper as Individual One when they were beefing in 2020. 50 Cent has repeatedly brought up allegations that Jim Jones may have been an informant. This stems from a federal case where Jones was identified as Individual One in wiretapped phone calls. 50 Cent uses this as ammunition constantly, calling Jones a snitch, a rat, an informant, all things that carry heavy weight in hip-hop culture. So when Jim Jones criticized the documentary on his podcast, it wasn't just a random rapper talking. It was a man with decades of history with 50 Cent. A man 50 Cent has been trolling for years. A man with his own legal baggage that 50 Cent loves to throw in his face. And 50 Cent's response to the criticism, leaking the phone call, the rent allegations, the eviction notice, the surveillance video, the building purchase, was disproportionate. Intentionally disproportionate, because that's how 50 Cent operates. You throw a rock at him, he launches a missile. With 50, everyone is welcome to the beef party, even if you're inactive in the industry, retired, or literally in prison. It's like he wakes up, drinks water, checks who offended him, and clocks into work immediately. From rappers to TV stars to industry heavyweights, 50 has never shied away from calling people out publicly, loudly, and unapologetically. The man built an entire entertainment legacy off music, business moves, internet memes, and of course, beef. That's 50 Cent's legacy in 2026. Music, business, memes, and beef. 4 pillars. And the beef pillar might be the strongest one right now. Let's compile the list of people 50 Cent was actively feuding with in early 2026. T.I. over the Versus situation and the documentary threat. Jim Jones over the documentary criticism and the landlord situation. Mano, as a member of the Let's Rap About It crew. Fabulous, same podcast crew. Dave East, same podcast crew. Papoose, over personal jabs and street credibility claims. Rick Ross, who jumped in through the T.I. beef. That's at least 7 active beefs running simultaneously. 7 rappers, some with their own crews and families involved. And 50 Cent is managing all of them at once, while running a television production empire and appearing in Hollywood movies. He's in a Netflix movie with Kim Kardashian, while beefing with 7 rappers and threatening documentaries. The man's schedule is absurd. With 50 Cent, anyone can get it. His cruelty towards his enemies knows no bounds. 50 Cent has tormented former business associates via Instagram to the point where they've been hospitalized. He entered the rap game by antagonizing rappers. Various celebrities outside of hip-hop have been on his target list, but this year, in particular, has seen him intensely feuding with a number of rappers from New York. The reports that his trolling has led to people being hospitalized speak to the severity of his approach. This isn't playful banter. For the people on the receiving end, it can be genuinely harmful. The constant public humiliation, the leaked documents, the financial exposure, these things have real consequences for real people. And yet 50 Cent shows no signs of stopping. In fact, he seems to be accelerating. Every new beef feeds the next one. The documentary gives him credibility as a producer, which makes the threat of a new documentary more believable, which gives him leverage in his beefs, which creates content for his social media, which promotes his productions. It's a self-sustaining engine of conflict and content, and in 2026 it's running at full speed. The question everyone in hip-hop is asking is, who's next? If 50 Cent can target a music mogul with a Netflix documentary, and then threaten T.I. and Tiny with another one, and simultaneously leak Jim Jones's landlord's phone call and use AI to mock Papoose, who is safe? The answer, based on everything we've seen, is no one. Let's also talk about the dynamic between 50 Cent and his rivals when it comes to the music versus media debate, because this is a core tension in the 2026 hip-hop landscape. Acknowledging 50 Cent's decades-long beefs, Shepherd teased that rappers used to make diss tracks, not docuseries. Sherri Shepherd made this observation on her show. Rappers used to make diss tracks. Now 50 Cent makes docuseries. That's a fundamental shift in how conflict works in hip-hop. And it raises questions about what hip-hop beef even means in 2026. In the golden age of rap beef, you responded with bars. You went to the studio, you recorded a track, you put it out, and the culture decided who won based on the quality of the lyrics. It was a competition of skill. Jay-Z vs. Nas, 50 Cent vs. J. Rule, Tupac vs. Biggie. All decided, at least in part, by who had the better records. But 50 Cent has changed the rules. He doesn't need bars, he has cameras. He has editors. He has streaming deals with Netflix and A&E. And in 2026, a documentary reaches more people than a diss track ever could. T.I. can drop the right one and get millions of streams from hip-hop fans. But a Netflix documentary gets watched by people who have never heard of T.I. It gets watched by people who don't listen to hip-hop. It gets covered by news outlets that would never write about a diss track. That asymmetry is what makes 50 Cent so dangerous. He's not fighting on the same battlefield as his opponents. He's fighting on a different one entirely. And on that battlefield, he has no competition. Now, the other side of this argument is that 50 Cent is avoiding the musical confrontation because he can't compete lyrically anymore. His critics say he won't rap because he knows he'll lose. Ross said, "I'm a real dude." 50 Cent had some huge records when he had the biggest producers and artists around him putting them together. That's why right now he can't make nothing to save his life. That's Rick Ross's take. He says 50 Cent can't make music anymore, that his era has passed. That without the producers and collaborators who built his early catalog, he has nothing. And there's some truth to the criticism. 50 Cent's last studio album, Animal Ambition, came out in 2014. That's over a decade ago. He hasn't released a major project since. And while he's been successful in television and business, his musical output has been essentially non-existent. But 50 Cent might argue that not rapping is the point. By refusing to engage on musical terms, he forces his opponents to exist in a space where they can't win. They can rap all they want. He'll produce a documentary. They can drop diss tracks all day. He'll buy their building. It's asymmetric warfare, and 50 Cent is winning it. So where does all of this go? As of March 2026, nothing has been resolved. The beefs are active. The documentary threat is hanging in the air. The leaked phone calls are still circulating. And 50 Cent shows no signs of slowing down. Let's start with T.I. After Grammy-winning rapper T.I. stopped by the Ebro Laura Rosenberg show on March 3rd in promotion of his new music. Let 'Em Know is a great song, by the way. Many hip-hop fans thought the recent resurgence of beef between him and 50 Cent would finally be put to bed. T.I. went on radio. He promoted new music. He seemed to be moving on. And then, 2 days later, 50 Cent dropped the surviving T.I. and Tiny post. Unfortunately, it looks like 50 Cent is about to take things to a whole new, yet familiar level. The timing was deliberate. T.I. starts promoting music, starts trying to move forward, and 50 Cent yanks him right back into the beef with a documentary threat. That's control. That's 50 Cent dictating the narrative, dictating the timeline, dictating when the beef is active and when it's not. 50 Cent also teased new music, but specifics about a diss track remain unclear. There are hints that 50 Cent might actually release music. But whether it's a diss track aimed at T.I. or something completely unrelated, nobody knows. 50 Cent loves ambiguity. He loves keeping people guessing. He drops hints and lets the internet fill in the blanks. Now, regarding the documentary specifically, we need to look at whether it's realistically going to happen. 50 Cent has the infrastructure. He has G-Unit Film and Television. He has relationships with Netflix and A&E. He has a track record of producing successful documentary content, so the capability is there. But making a documentary about T.I. and Tiny is different from making one about a convicted person. T.I. has not been convicted of any crime related to the sexual assault allegations. The investigations were closed without charges. The civil suit was dismissed. A documentary that presents unproven allegations as established fact could expose 50 Cent and any network that airs it to serious legal liability. Despite the strong viewership, the series has also led to new legal complications. A former sex worker who appeared in the documentary later filed a lawsuit. claiming her interview was altered in a misleading way. The Netflix documentary is already facing legal challenges. If that production, which was about a convicted person, is dealing with lawsuits, imagine the legal exposure of a documentary about someone who hasn't been charged, let alone convicted. 50 Cent is smart enough to understand this, which is why many observers believe the documentary threat is just that, a threat, a strategic move designed to create pressure, generate content, and maintain dominance in the narrative war with T.I. But then again, people said 50 Cent would never actually produce a documentary, and then he did. People said he wouldn't leak a phone call, and then he did. People said he wouldn't buy a building to mess with Jim Jones, and then he apparently did. With 50 Cent, you can never say never. Let's also consider what's happening on the Jim Jones front. 50 Cent and Jim Jones's beef dates back to G-Unit and the Diplomats feuding in the 2000s, and most recently flared up due to that documentary criticism. From there, both of them are clowning each other for their financial woes, clout chasing, connections with other MCs. The list goes on. The beef with Jim Jones is ongoing but has settled into a pattern. 50 Cent trolls. Jim Jones shrugs it off or fires back with limited ammunition. The podcast crew drops a freestyle. 50 Cent posts memes. Neither side is landing a knockout blow. It's more of a slow burn. 50's doing the same, not responding at all to a freestyle against him. They both have other beefs and conflicts to handle. Nevertheless, it seems like they will always cash in on an opportunity to roast each other. This is the equilibrium. Neither side will fully walk away because there's too much content value in the conflict, and neither side will fully escalate because the consequences would be disproportionate to the rewards. It's a cold war, not a hot one, but the leaked phone call changed the dynamic in one important way. It showed that 50 Cent is willing to go beyond social media and into real-world actions. Calling a landlord, sharing financial documents, allegedly buying property. These are moves that affect people's lives in tangible ways. And that raises the stakes for anyone who considers getting into it with 50 Cent. Mino understands this. Mano gives 50 Cent credit for helping him land a record deal with Atlantic Records, especially since Fifth had a lot of associates who grew up with Mino as well. Ultimately, they remained cordial, and things were positive between the two up until the end of 2025. Mino and 50 Cent used to be good. They had mutual respect. They had shared connections. And then the documentary criticism brought it all down. Now Mino is dropping diss tracks, and 50 Cent is posting AI videos making fun of him. This is the collateral damage of 50 Cent's wars. People who had nothing to do with the original conflict get pulled in by association. Jim Jones criticized the documentary, so his entire podcast crew became targets. T.I. demanded a versus, so his wife and sons became targets. It's a widening circle of conflict that draws in more and more people. Now let's look at the broader picture of what 50 Cent is building. It's not his first production credit for a show. The rapper helped produce hit shows like Power, The Reckoning, Gang Wars, The Fifth Wheel, whatever surviving T.I. and Tiny might become. 50 Cent is building a media empire that spans scripted television, documentaries, true crime, comedy films, and who knows what else. And at the center of that empire is beef. Because beef drives attention, attention drives viewership, viewership drives revenue. Revenue gives him more resources to create more content, and more content gives him more opportunities for beef. It's the 50 Cent cycle, and it's self-perpetuating. Think about how this all connects. 1. 50 Cent produces a documentary on Netflix. 2. Jim Jones and his podcast crew criticize the documentary. 3. 50 Cent leaks their landlord's phone call. 4. The phone call goes viral. 5. The podcast crew responds with a diss track. 6. 50 Cent escalates by buying into the building. 7. Meanwhile, T.I. demands a versus. 8. 50 Cent dismisses T.I. publicly. 9. T.I. drops 4 diss tracks. 10. 50 Cent teases a documentary about T.I. 11. The documentary threat goes viral. 12. Rick Ross jumps in. 13. Papoose jumps in. 14. 50 Cent uses AI to mock multiple opponents at once. 15. Fans debate whether any of the documentaries are real. 16. 50 Cent announces another documentary for A&E. 17. The cycle continues. Every step feeds the next one. Every conflict generates content. Every piece of content generates attention. And every bit of attention serves 50 Cent's business interests. Some people call this genius, others call it reckless, but no one can deny it works. Through the documentary, 50 Cent has essentially documented his decades-long distrust, backing it up with testimony from alleged victims, archival footage, and journalistic investigation. In October 2025, when a conviction was handed down, 50 Cent posted social commentary suggesting that the conviction validated his long-standing warnings about misconduct in the industry. What started as a personal feud had evolved into a cultural statement about accountability in hip-hop. 50 Cent positions all of this as accountability. He says he's speaking for victims. He says he's holding people responsible. And to his credit, the Netflix documentary did bring attention to serious allegations. Whether his motivations are purely altruistic or partly driven by personal vendettas is something each viewer has to decide for themselves. In multiple interviews, 50 described feeling uncomfortable around certain industry figures, citing an incident where someone allegedly asked to take him shopping, a gesture 50 interpreted as inappropriate. The rapper stated, "That's something a guy says to a girl." 50 Cent has spoken about feeling uncomfortable in certain industry situations. He's described encounters that made him uneasy, and he's used those personal experiences to justify his role in exposing what he sees as misconduct in hip-hop. But the line between accountability and exploitation is thin. When you produce a documentary about someone's darkest allegations, are you giving voice to victims or are you profiting from their pain? When you leak a phone call about someone's rent, are you exposing financial dishonesty or are you just humiliating someone for content? These are the questions that the hip-hop community is wrestling with in 2026, and 50 Cent is at the center of all of them. Let's go back to the original question of this video, the leaked phone call. The track serves as a response to 50 Cent leaking a phone call, where he discussed buying the building that houses their podcast and exposed their alleged overdue rent. The leaked phone call between 50 Cent and the landlord of Jim Jones's podcast studio was the spark that ignited a multi-front war. It was the moment where 50 Cent showed the entire industry that he was playing a different game, not a rap game, not a social media game, a business game, a media game, a game where leaked audio, legal documents, surveillance footage, and documentary threats are the weapons of choice. And the rappers on the other end of that phone call, and all the rappers who responded to the documentary announcements, are still figuring out how to fight back. T.I. chose music. He dropped 4 diss tracks that critics praised. He put his lyrical skill on display and reminded the world that he's one of the greatest rappers from the South. But 50 Cent didn't respond with music. He responded with a documentary threat. Jim Jones chose to downplay it. He thanked 50 Cent for the free promo. He kept recording his podcast, but 50 Cent didn't let up. He kept leaking audio, posting videos, and allegedly buying into the building. Mino chose to address it directly. He went on radio and called 50 Cent a liar. He dropped a diss track. He challenged 50 to rap. But 50 Cent just posted another meme. Papoose chose to go hard. He released Agent Provocateur and went after 50's street credibility. But 50 Cent didn't respond with bars. He responded with an AI video. Rick Ross chose to pile on through the T.I. beef. He asked for the t-shirt with 50's mother on it. He added fuel to a fire that was already raging. But this is a man who has been trying to get under 50's skin for over a decade. And 50 Cent is still standing, still trolling, still winning the content war. The common thread in all of these responses is that none of them have found a way to beat 50 Cent at his own game. Because 50 Cent's game isn't rap, it's media, it's attention, it's content creation. And in that arena, he's operating at a level that his opponents can't match. Now, where does this all end? The honest answer is it probably doesn't. Not anytime soon. It's long, messy, and still active decades later. It started in the late 90s, and 50 Cent has been treating his beefs like a full-time job he doesn't want to retire from. 50 Cent has been beefing since the late 1990s. That's nearly 3 decades, and he shows no signs of retirement from the beef business. If anything, his tools have only gotten more sophisticated. He's gone from diss tracks, to memes, to leaked phone calls, to documentaries. What's next? A reality show where he trolls people in real time? Actually, don't give him ideas. 50 Cent, born Curtis Jackson, remains one of the most influential figures to cross through hip-hop, business, and television. In 2026, tracks like Many Men and In Da Club are cultural reference points, sampled, quoted, memed, and used across social media and film, while his producing empire continues to expand with new projects across streaming platforms. That's 50 Cent's legacy: music, business, television, and beef. In that order, or maybe in reverse order, depending on who you ask. The leaked phone call that went viral was just one moment in an ongoing saga, but it was a defining moment. It was the moment where the industry realized that 50 Cent's documentary era had changed the rules of engagement in hip-hop forever. You can't just diss 50 Cent and walk away anymore. He'll leak your landlord's call. He'll buy your building. He'll threaten to make a 4-part documentary about the worst allegations of your life. He'll do it all while producing shows for Netflix, starring in movies with Kim Kardashian, and posting Gatsby photos on Instagram. That's the reality of beefing with 50 Cent in 2026. And every rapper in the game is going to have to decide, is it worth it? Based on everything we've seen, the answer from T.I., Jim Jones, Mano, Papoose, and Rick Ross is a resounding yes. They're all still in the ring, they're all still swinging, and 50 Cent is still standing in the corner, laughing, posting, and planning his next move. When 50 Cent gets quiet online, it usually means something is brewing. The rapper and TV producer has built a reputation for turning rap drama into full-blown entertainment. When 50 Cent goes quiet, get ready, because whatever comes next is going to be bigger, louder, and more chaotic than what came before. That's not speculation, that's a pattern, and patterns don't lie. The leaked phone call was just the beginning. The documentary announcements are escalating, the beefs are multiplying, and 50 Cent, the man who survived being shot 9 times, who went from the streets of Queens to the executive suite at Netflix, is just getting started. At least that's what his Instagram says. And if there's one thing we've learned from following this story, it's that 50 Cent's Instagram is where empires are built and reputations are destroyed. One post at a time, one leak at a time, one deleted screenshot at a time. The culture is watching, the rappers are scrambling, and 50 Cent is sitting at the center of it all, sipping something expensive and figuring out who's next. Because with Curtis Jackson, someone is always next. Whether it's a phone call with your landlord, a surveillance video of you kicking down a door, or a documentary title card that makes the entire internet hold its breath, 50 Cent has the receipts, and he has no problem sharing them. The only question left is, will surviving T.I. and Tiny actually happen? Will 50 Cent turn this beef into a full-blown production, or is the threat enough? If history is any guide, 50 Cent will do whatever causes the most damage and generates the most attention. And right now, the threat alone is doing both. So stay tuned, because this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. And if you're a rapper reading this or watching this video, take this as a public service announcement. Think twice before you criticize a 50 Cent documentary on your podcast, because the next leaked phone call might be yours. That's the state of hip-hop in 2026. Documentary threats, leaked audio, AI-generated diss videos, real estate warfare. And at the center of all of it, a man from South Jamaica, Queens, who turned getting shot 9 times into the greatest entertainment career in hip-hop history. 50 Cent doesn't need to rap anymore. He doesn't need to make albums. He doesn't need hit singles. He has something more powerful: cameras, contracts, Instagram, and the willingness to use all of them at the same time against anyone who steps to him. The leaked phone call that went viral, that was just Tuesday for 50 Cent. Wednesday, he was buying the building. Thursday, he was teasing a documentary. Friday, he was posting AI videos. And by Saturday, he was back to posting photos of himself as the Great Gatsby, warning everyone that he'll have the last laugh. He always does. That's the story, that's the saga. And that's why every phone call, every documentary announcement, and every deleted Instagram post from Curtis 50 Cent Jackson breaks the internet. Because in 2026, no one does it better, no one does it bigger, and absolutely no one does it pettier. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe, because the next chapter of this saga could drop at any moment. With 50 Cent, you never know when the next phone call is getting leaked, the next documentary is getting teased, or the next rapper is about to catch a stray on Instagram. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, and whatever you do, don't get on 50 Cent's bad side.